once again was with us in Sao Paulo last year and was very much involved in the idea of developing this program in the first place. It's Pierfrancesco Vago, of course, is CEO of MSC Cruceros. Like Royal Caribbean, MSC is a major player in this market, and it's always a pleasure to introduce Pierfrancesco as a speaker in a forum like this. So please, a warm welcome to him.
Good day, honorable ministers, Mrs. Hood, Mr. Borelli, fellow speaker, ladies and gentlemen. It is a great pleasure to be here today with this distinguished panel and to discuss the opportunities and the role of cruise tourism in South America. By for one of today's most enticing global destination, as we just heard. This is the second edition of the Seatrade South America Cruise Convention. Last year, as we heard from Chris, we were in Sao Paulo. Today we are in Buenos Aires. And first of all, I would like to thank Seatrade for their constant effort to bring key people together and to encourage dialogue and discussion like here today. These events are of the utmost importance in making the cruise sector known and to make regulators, legislators, tourism authorities and a wide range of stakeholders understand how this industry works, what benefits it brings, and we will develop some numbers in a minute. What are the merits of this industry and what are the peculiarities of these industries? I also like to take the opportunity to briefly thank Abramar, the Brazilian Association of Cruise Companies, represented here today by Mr. Amaral. This organization is significantly contributing to regulate, promote, coordinate, and expand the cruise activity in South America, helping to shape the political and regulatory framework in order to ease cruise business operation, as we need and as we heard from Mr. Goldstein's presentation. So let's have a look at these numbers. So let's do some recap of the history of cruise industry here in the South American region. So the cruise market has been moving in South America for the last 10 years. We are speaking about an increase of nearly 3,000% from less than 50,000 passengers in 2000 and 2001 season, close to 1.5 million passengers last season. During the time we saw the market move from exuberant infancy to a more mature and sustainable position. The consistent expansion of cruising as a valuable holiday option has been mainly driven by a favorable political and economical context, as well as by the growing spending power of the middle class, which has propelled the economy and by consequence tourism in the region. Despite such a positive picture, current challenges, as they were introduced, and concern also exist. While the size of ships deployed in South America is growing, the number of ships, we heard, is gradually decreasing, and the number of calls is being reduced, leading to a slowdown in growth rate compared to the rapid increases seen in the previous years. It is vital that we analyze the last decade's staggering growth and its components together, that we also understand what fueled this growth, and carefully possibly try to evaluate what could slow growth rate and what could threaten growth in the future. As I was saying, today we are here in Buenos Aires to address the tremendous potential that Argentina still has to unlock in terms of cruising. Let's consider some of the Argentinian numbers. Almost 300,000 passengers took a cruise in Argentina in last season, 11-12, with passenger transit growing from 54,000 in 2006 and 7 to 144,000 in last season, 11-12. And more relevant, embarking passenger raising nearly 40,000 in 2006 and 7 to nearly 145,000 in last season, 11 and 12. We also heard from Mr. Borelli the calls of Buenos Aires have almost tripled from 54 to 142. These are interesting and promising figures from a sector that is developing in two main directions. On one side, cruise tourism is expanding all along the east coast of South America, from the Tierra del Fuego to Colombia and Venezuela, bringing tourists to areas and regions that would be difficult to reach other than by sea. On the other side, more and more international tourists, mainly coming from Europe and North America, are considering exploring South America by ship, indulging in cruising comfort and service, and attracted by its unique value for money. I'm therefore confident that the Argentinian government, together with the regulators and port stakeholders, will not risk missing the occasion and will understand what an incredible opportunity the cruise business represents in terms of direct, indirect, and induced economic impact. And maybe, as we had some members study in Brazil, I think and encourage that we will have maybe a study done by the political stakeholders to see what these impacts are in Argentina. I'm also confident that they will do what is in their power to defend and develop a business that, according to the Tourist Observatory in the city of Buenos Aires, brought in 2010 and 11 an average passenger expenditure of over 900 pesos per visit to the city, which corresponded to $195 US. So we see the potential of tourism, this cruise tourism that brings to the city and to the region itself. However, just to give you a rough idea of what is at stake, we learned from an excellent study, we learned from the words of Mr. Amaral last year, that in 2010 and 11, Brazil alone, the industry generated almost 814 million US and was responsible, we heard before, for over 21,000 jobs. In order to seize the unmissable opportunity to become the new rising star of cruising in South America, Argentina should carefully consider this number and should work with cruise lines and other stakeholders to figure out how we can remove the major obstacles that the business is still struggling with. Some examples. We heard already, enhanced infrastructure dedicated exclusively to cruising in order to speed up embarkation, disembarkation, and transit procedures. Lower operational costs that are unreasonably high and often increased with a short notice. Offer additional ports of calls. We saw that apart from Buenos Aires and Ushuaia, there are only two ports that can really receive large cruise ships along Argentina, 5,000 kilometers coastlines. And finally, open cruise terminals to fair and more efficient competition by allowing more than one operator to invest in the ports. As far as Brazil is concerned, we again have 7,400 kilometers long coastlines, over 40 port of calls, and this makes this country probably the fastest expanding market for cruise tourism in the world, as we saw from the figures. As far as MSC, just to give you some numbers, since 2002, since we opened our office in Sao Paulo, guest numbers have rocketed from 8,000 to 200,000. With an increase of 2,500%. In fact, this year we will employ a large-sized ship, a Fantasia class ship from the Brazilian coast, and we alone will expect to handle 260,000 passengers on MSC Cruises, on MSC vessels. Remember also that Brazil is poised for a further surge in tourism and hopefully in the cruise tourism in the run-up for the 2014 World Cup and 2016 Summer Olympic Games. So what an opportunity. We saw that the country is heavily investing in rebuilding its infrastructure from airport terminals to port berths and terminals. And all of these efforts are going to make cruise ships an even more valuable hospitality option in a country with a limited number of hotels. Before closing, we should also take a look at the rest of the continent. Chile, Uruguay, Venezuela, Colombia. They also have witnessed growth in cruising in the last years. Colombia leads the way with 270,000 packs, more than 160 calls recorded in last season, and 310,000 passengers expected for this season to come, 2012 and 13. So an increase of 16%. Uruguay follows with almost 200,000 packs in 11 and 12, around 120 calls at Punta del Este and Montevideo. And all this despite strict regulation about compulsory local tender use that certainly does not ease cruise line operation. I'm referring to Punta del Este. All in all, the cruise market in the region is flourishing, mature, and most importantly, still unsaturated. New opportunities could certainly come from the existing in the length of the season to a year-round business. And we heard Mr. Goldstein mention that. And from a more dynamic approach to cruising, South America should start thinking as one. And this is the invitation that we want to give as cruise operators. Leaving behind unrealistic or nationalistic visions, sharing knowledge and tools, encouraging studies and data, gathering on the cruise sector and work to define a clear, transparent and reliable regulatory framework. I'm personally convinced that this is not a question of, but when this will happen. So thank you very much. Thank you.
Presentation, Pierfrancesco. Thank you very much indeed. And finding that some common themes are emerging in all the presentations, and I hope we'll have a chance to analyze some of those themes in the discussion period which follows these short presentations before we take a coffee break. I'd just like to say that unfortunately, Leonardo Vargas has to attend some other meetings, so he has to leave a little bit early. But I'd like to thank him once again, not only for his speech this morning, but also for the invaluable support from the poor for this event. And we look forward very much to working with you. So, ladies and gentlemen, let's move on now. We have two more presentations, and then we come to the discussion period.